Hello, your closet cases. It's Jeremy back once again. This is my second video this week because my last one went up very late. A lot of people on the channel this week are doing like intro videos to themselves or more about me kind of videos. Seeing as I already did like an introduction about myself when I first joined this channel, which was only a couple of months, maybe only a bit under 2 months ago. Seeing as I've already done that, I thought I might continue on with the lists that we were doing last week, and I am going to do my top 5 gay-friendly films, or gay-centric films, I think. Basically films that are of significant importance to the LGBT community. But before I do that, I just wanted to catch up our Australian viewers on some really fantastic news that's come out in the last couple of days. First and foremost, today, 2 men who adopted a young child have been in a landmark court case here in New South Wales been declared legally the parents of the adopted 2-year-old. This is a landmark court decision signifying the importance of 2 same-sex parents in that kind of family dynamic. It's the first ever of its kind, and needless to say, it's a really fantastic progression. And second of all, as a lot of you may have heard, the New South Wales Upper House passed a motion that says it officially supports gay marriage and urges the government to implement gay marriage on a federal level. So the official stance of the New South Wales Upper House is pro-gay marriage and urging the federal government to pursue it. Again, another landmark decision and a really, really fantastic thing for those of us here in Australia. So 2 really big things to be happy about here in Australia at the moment. So, I'll move on. These are my top 5 gay-friendly / LGBT-centric films. I'm going to start it off with an honourable mention. An honourable mention goes to the film Gilda from 1946, starring Glenn Ford and Rita Hayworth. Now, the reason I didn't actually include it on this list is because it's never explicitly stated that the 2 male leads in that film are gay. Obviously a sign of the times. But it has now come out, pun intended, that the director intended for the characters of Johnny Farrell and Balin Munson, as it was intended that they were former gay lovers. And that is actually a really fantastic film about 2 men who are fighting over a woman, but knowing that context, you now understand that they weren't fighting over a woman, they were fighting to see who could distance themselves from their homosexual past the most. Really fantastic film, really intriguing and captivating for a 1946 film. I'm not a huge fan of old cinema, but that's definitely one of the best old cinema films I've ever seen. Right, now on to the top 5. At number 5, I have The Birdcage, starring Robin Williams and Nathan Lane. The Birdcage is a pretty standard comedy, except it was fairly new for its time because it was involving 2 very big, very mainstream actors playing gay lovers. Now, because it's a Hollywoodized film and it was still pandering to conservative values at the time, there's no actual gay kissing, there's only, like, obviously they're gay, obviously one of them is a transvestite, played fantastically by Nathan Lane in what I think is one of his funniest roles ever. It's about 2 gay men who are hiding their relationship out of necessity from their from their sons' girlfriends' conservative parents who are conservative politicians, or one of them's a conservative politician. And so it's a very farcical kind of film where it's all about hiding the gay in our household. And obviously all hell breaks loose, or all gay breaks loose, I guess. It's a really, really funny film. It's a little bit too stereotype heavy to the point where it can actually be insulting to gay people sometimes, and, you know, other members of the LGBT community. But standouts include, a good standout, not what I was just talking about, is Hank Azaria as the Latin pool boy / housekeeper. He's just an absolute riot. So that's definitely one of my favourite gay-themed films. Number 4, Some Like It Hot. Now, again, not ever explicitly stated that these characters are either gay or openly transvestite. It's mostly about two men, in order to escape a whole group of gangsters, dress up as women to go on, like, just to go on a train to make sure that, like, they can escape the gangsters completely in the best disguises they can find. It was one of Marilyn Monroe's last films, from memory, although I could be mistaking that for another one, but it does have Marilyn Monroe. So they're not really gay characters, but it is a fairly popular film in gay communities around the world. It's riotously funny. It doesn't go for any of the, ooh, scary homosexuals attitudes that a lot of films in that era had when referencing that kind of material. In fact, at the very end, one of the most famous, in my opinion, one of the greatest movie lines of all time, one of the lead man rips off his wig and he says, "I'm sorry, I'm a man," to another man who has fallen in love with the woman. And the man replies, nobody's perfect. It's just a fantastic line. It's a really funny film. Marilyn Monroe is really good in that film. So yeah, at number 4, Some Like It Hot. Number 3, I Love You, Philip Morris, starring Jim Carrey and Ewan McGregor. I watched this film with my girlfriend, and we were just in stitches the whole time. And then by the end of the film, we were both just sitting there, like, crying and, like, dabbing our eyes. And it's based on a true story as well. If you can look up the true story of Philip Morris and his jailbird lover, it's a really, really fascinating story. And this film is executed so brilliantly. Jim Carrey is fantastic. Ewan McGregor is really, really cool as well. Very different role than what you've seen him in before. And I guess the same can go for Jim Carrey, as he's never really played a gay man before. But he's sort of more closer to being regularly Jim Carrey. But the story about two gay men who find each other and fall in love in prison is just priceless. It is, as far as I'm concerned, it was gypped out of an Oscar. And obviously that's because America is very conservative and it didn't get a very big theatrical release and there wasn't enough of a drive for people to see it, so it kind of got overlooked. But it was easily one of the best films of its year. Check it out. I Love You, Philip Morris is a fantastic, funny, touching, heartbreaking film. Number 2, Shortbus. Shortbus is the essence of queer cinema. It has a storyline involving mostly gay or bisexual characters. However, the main character is, I guess she's either straight or bi, leaning towards bi, if not completely bi. It's about it's about a 30-something sex therapist who's never had an orgasm, and she searches the gay and queer nightlife of New York City to find an orgasm. And the interesting thing about this film was all the sex in it was completely real, 100% real. So it didn't get a big theatrical release. It was mostly played in art house cinemas. But as confronting as it is to see actors having real, non-simulated sex on screen, you can measure the worth of this film by how well you find yourself not noticing that, just thinking it as a part of the film, as part of the story that you're watching. It's a really fantastic film. The scenes in the club, in the Shortbus club, are just captivating and mesmerizing and really, really great. And what I love about this film is the characters are what I would refer to as being ultra-realist characters, and obviously the way they shoot unsimulated sex was ultra-realism, but then there's an abstract nature to the setting and the visual style of the film as well. Really, really great film. One of my favourite films of all time, actually, but definitely one of my favourite gay-centric films. Check out Shortbus. Be careful when Googling it, though. Make sure you don't have your parents around or anyone else who might be offended by dudes blowing each other in a film. So yeah, number 2, Shortbus. And number 1, you probably all saw it coming, Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, or The Adventures of Priscilla, Queen of the Desert. Starring... oh god, why am I suddenly... Sorry, starring Guy Pearce and... I'm having a mind blank now. You know, the guy who plays Agent Smith in The Matrix. You know who I'm talking about. Hugo Weaving. Starring Hugo Weaving and Guy Pearce, as well as a lot of actors who are now really big name actors. It's about 2 drag queens and a transsexual drag queen who go on a cross-country tour of the Australian outback, mostly in drag, in a giant pink tour bus with like big sparkly shoes on the top. This is one of Australia's greatest films, one of my favourite films, and my favourite gay-centred film. It is a really fantastic story. It is so, so funny. And it's also touching and warm and just engaging. And it's a fantastic family film as well. It's all about not worrying about who you are and what other people think, while at the same time trying to fit in to a society that doesn't really accept you. It was just such a captivating thing for audiences of the time as well, because this is when Australia's gay scene was finally getting noticed commercially and by the mainstream media and people in day-to-day life. And it was just such a landmark film. And it's so, so, so good. And America tried to copy it with a film called... oh, I don't even know what it was called, but it starred Patrick Swayze, John Leguizamo, and Wesley Snipes of all people. And that was a really shitty American remake. It was full of stereotypes and very cliched, you know, fag humour. Whereas the Australian film is so warm and so deep. I love that film. I really do. It's such a great film. The number 1 gay-centric / LGBT relevant film, I think, is Priscilla, Queen of the Desert. So there you are, guys. That's my list for this week. That's my video for this week. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to us, and if you know any people who support the gay, lesbian, LGBT community cause, link them to this page and get them to subscribe and like this video as well. Need all the support we can get, guys. We are growing by the day, but we need your help. So thank you everyone for watching. Hope I was entertaining enough. If you have the name of that film I'm thinking of, it's like Letters from Wong Fu or something. If you have the name of that film, can you write it down the bottom? If I missed out mentioning any actors that should be mentioned, post them down below. Or any films that you think are very relevant to gay cinema. Post them down below. What are your opinions on these films that I just talked about? Leave us a comment, let us know. Thanks very much, guys. Enjoy the rest of your week. I'll be back with you next Thursday.